we're talking about in the last video avoidance and anxiety. So I'm going to do this. We're going to put on the top here low avoidance. And on the bottom, we're going to put high avoidance. And on the side, we're going to measure anxiety. So we'll put high anxiety, and we'll put low anxiety. So let's draw our fancy little pepperoni pizza, square flatbread, whatever, and measure these things out. If you are low in avoidance of intimacy, but high in anxiety, then you are what's known as anxiously attached. Cool. And you account for roughly 20% of the population. All right. And your defining characteristics are you're very preoccupied with your relationships. You are really, really wanting to get close really, really quick. And your attachment system is very, very sensitive. So at any given moment, if you sense that there's some kind of upheaval in the relationship or risk of not being intimate, then your attachment system will activate, and some of your activating strategies or ways of coping will happen. That's later videos, but that's a way of thinking about it. So if you are high in avoidance and high in anxiety, you're what's known as a fearfully attached person. Okay, and people that are fearfully attached, well, first of all, they account for roughly, I think it was 3 to 4% of the population. So there's not a whole lot of them, but essentially it means that you are both afraid of being far from your partner and afraid of being close. It has both the anxious and avoidant dynamics going on. If you are low in anxiety and high in avoidance, then you are what's known as an avoidantly attached person. So a way of thinking about this, if we go back to our dynamics, is in terms of anxiety, you're not real anxious about your relationships. You don't really spend a whole lot of time thinking about it. These people tend to have high self-esteem, and anxiously attached tends to have low self-esteem. It's kind of a little interesting thing there, but you tend to have high self-esteem. You don't really think a whole lot about the quality or the state of your relationships, and you're high in avoidance, which means that you're not really craving intimacy. In fact, when somebody tries to get super close to you, that's when your red flags go up, and you will actively start to do things that sabotage that closeness, whether it's, thinking that they're just not the one, or starting to focus on really nitpicky bullshit about who they are, and then defining your perception of them based on the fact that, one morning they had bad breath or whatever it is. The fact of the matter is that you use strategies that prevent you from getting really close or from threatening your independence in any significant way. Finally, we have the miracle, the boring miracle of the securely attached person. Securely attached people account for about 50% of the population. They have, I would say, healthy self-esteem, not overly important, not too low. It's like the porridge story, not too hot, not too cold, just right in the middle. And they essentially have the best of both worlds. So it's kind of the opposite of fearfully attached. They enjoy closeness. They don't have a problem expressing their feelings or taking in the feelings of somebody else. But they also can do fine on their own. They're fine to be alone. They have a certain degree of independence. They're not afraid of being dependent, and they're not afraid of being independent. And they can kind of beautifully juggle these two ways of relating into a harmonious and healthy way of forming a relationship. So this is kind of, I'm sorry for the horrific writing. That's more of a genetic weakness of mine rather than just a lack of trying to write beautifully. I gave up in like 7th grade. But yeah, this is a good way of understanding the 4 attachment styles and the relationship dynamics. In the next video, we're going to explore the attachment system. The attachment system is the thing that gets activated and ends up producing certain behaviors that surely you can relate to and are largely responsible for some of the craziness that you bring to relationships. So I will see you at the next video, and we'll talk about the attachment system. High five.